What if I told you that even ordinary people can be on top of the world?
The first attempt on the North Pole by a team of women gets underway today.
The epic adventure will take them over 1,000 kilometers of hazardous sea ice.
It's thousands of miles of ice and nobody.
And so I found myself walking into this water and then sinking up to my neck.
I honestly thought I was going to die in the Arctic.
The all-new 30 for 30 podcast. Subscribe now on the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts.
30 for 30 podcast is presented by Mini. We're finding the best sports stories for you right now. And to do that, we're behind the wheel of the new Mini Countryman, the biggest Mini yet.
Please proceed to the highlighted route.
To find great sports stories, you have to get out into the world and follow your instincts. That's where the new Mini Countryman's all-wheel drive comes in handy. With all four, we can chase down a story in the city, the country, and most places in between. No matter what story you're chasing, the new Mini Countryman will help you find it. It's available now, and so are 30 for 30 podcasts.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast. It's your man Clint Yates back in the saddle on a Thursday. Dan Le Batard Show. I'm happy to be here. Happy to be back. I want you to know something. I just got a quick update, Mike, right before we came on the air. I know some of you guys are up in Bristol, right, for producing or whatever in the last week. Am I right on that?
In the last week. Everybody's back now, though.
So you guys have seen that room where the ESPN radio pod is, the con, if you will, right? You know what that room looks like. There's like 3 studios. There's that hallway.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes,
so,
we do.
You know what's on the hall? You know what's on the walls on the hallway, right?
Pictures of people?
Pictures of people who do shows.
Yeah.
There's a picture of Mike and Mike. There's a picture of Dan and Stu. There's a picture of George Sedano. There's a picture of Stephen A. There's a picture of Bomani. There's a picture of Paul Feinbaum. And now, this is important news to all of America. Here's a picture of Clinton Yates, Domonique Foxworth, and Mina Kimes on the wall.
Wow, congratulations. It's a big step. That's a big step.
Just letting everybody know that. If you don't listen to the Morning Roast, you should. Anyway, there's that.
Does Weekend Observations have a photo?
No. Don't think so, but they might, actually. That's a good question that we'll have to get an update on. I will text Gojo and ask him that. That is a very important piece of show information relating to the family of programming here. So, anyway, that made me happy. Sticking with Miami, though. Giancarlo Stanton, big home run hitter for the Marlins. Obviously, he's been going yard left and right all over the shop. I saw him hit a couple of huge bombs against my Nationals a couple weeks ago. This guy's unbelievable how he connects with the ball, at least when it's not the home run derby. And, you know, he's going after it. And he did not homer last night, but he said something that, look, I've said this a million times, and I'll say it again. Baseball's obsession with its past is so incredibly lame and half the reason why they are bleeding fans on a regular basis. And I am the biggest baseball fan you guys know. Giancarlo said he is chasing a certain record. Let's hear the sound.
I mean, you grow up watching Sandlot, you grow up watching all the old films of Babe Ruth and Mantle and these guys, and 61's always been kind of that printed number as a kid.
Do you consider that the home run number?
Considering some things, I do, but at the same time, it doesn't matter. The record's the record. But personally, I think I do, yeah.
Stanton! We believed in you. You're supposed to be the new star of the Pigs. For people who care about this stuff, you're an American. And you're fooling around with this 61 nonsense? Are you serious? You watch the old films of Babe Ruth? What? What movies? Where is he getting these films?
He mentioned Sandlot, Clinton.
Oh, I'm so disappointed in Giancarlo. What is he talking about? The printed number? Is he subscribed to a newspaper, one of the 10 people in America? I say that as somebody that used to work at a newspaper and still breaks my heart that the printed pulp has gone away. I cannot believe he is this out of touch with the reality of baseball. Update, pitchers took steroids too. So all this nonsense about tainted records for hitters and all this other stuff, grow a brain, people. It wasn't just hitters who did better as a result of performance-enhancing drugs. Oh, I'm so upset by this. I wanted to like Giancarlo more.
I'm proud of him.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he said something. That's interesting.
That's
when do you lead a show with baseball? It's rare that we even talk about baseball. Way to go. I think he'd feel differently if the actual record were in his reach, like 61 is.
That's what this comes down to. He's hating on himself because he knows he can't reach that. But come on, when you grow up watching the old films of Babe Ruth, what are you, 85 years old? Babe Ruth played when black dudes weren't even allowed on the field. If you're counting at home, yes, I am that guy that disregards all records before Jackie Robinson stepped into the bigs. You grow up watching old films of Babe Ruth. What?
I dig it. And I agree with him. I agree with him.
That's a lie.
No, I dig it, and I agree.
Nobody's watched old films of Babe Ruth who's alive today.
I watched The Sandlot. That counts. Yeah. There was a ghost Babe Ruth in that. I liked baseball when that was the record. I don't like baseball since new records have been established. How many guys have hit over 61? Didn't Greg Vaughn chase 61 at one point? Get out of here. Yeah. Really? Maris has the record. Let's get it. We're chasing history down here in Miami.
He's that
chasing the actual record. Yeah. Also, there is a history there between Stanton and Barry Bonds. Remember, Bonds was a hitting coach down here, and it was reported that they didn't exactly get along. So that's some shade that he's throwing Bonds' way.
Clearly. But come on. The best baseball player in the history of mankind is Barry Bonds. He was best hitter. He might not have been able to throw out Sid Bream on a peg leg in Pittsburgh. Different discussion. But Stanton, this is massively disappointing from a baseball fan's standpoint.
Oh, I'm psyched.
Oh,
now we have... Baseball was at its best, I think, when I was growing up, and I was too foolish to see Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa's heads getting bigger. But that whole chase was so exciting. It took the nation by storm. It was the leading evening newscast. And if we can just sort of throw back to that time and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, have Stanton chasing the record all over again, the 90s are back. I'm digging it.
The Sandlot is the Gap of baseball movies if you're comparing them to other clothing retail stores.
You've gone too far.
Yes. Yeah. Nope.
You've gone way too far.
Nope.
Sandlot's amazing. Benny the Jet
Sandlot's
Rodriguez.
great. Sandlot's great. Sandlot is the place that everybody goes to get the basics of kids' baseball movies. That's what it is. It's not a knock. Understand this. Understand what I'm saying.
Well, then what's the Godfather of baseball movies? Or in your case, what's the highest end clothing store that's still a chain, not a boutique?
That's still a chain? Probably Bull Durham. I'm so mad at Stanton. Like, I can't believe that this guy is the guy who's hearkening back to the nonsense era. The numbers you see printed. What? What? I just got this vision of Stanton, like, waking up in the morning.
Reading a paper?
No, he's got the dog that goes and gets the paper. He's got the robe on, the slides. He walks back to the back deck and he says, "Oh, look at this."
Oh, really? Because I got him stepping on a micro machine, his bare feet, while he's walking on the grass to pick up the paper and yelling, "Oh, God, kids, damn."
Put it on the poll. Is the Sandlot overrated? I don't think it's overrated. I just think that it's for basics.
Properly rated.
It's for basics. If you think The Sandlot is the best baseball movie out there, you're basic.
Ah, man, it's up there. It's really good. I guess that makes me basic. I like that and Rookie of the Year.
Rookie of the Year is a good movie. Rookie of the Year is a great movie.
Better than Sandlot?
Well, Little Big League is better than Rookie of the Year. Let's
no,
not be crazy.
Get the hell out of here. No one agrees with you.
I don't care if anybody agrees with me. That doesn't preclude me from being right.
Little Big League was such a Rookie of the Year knockoff.
But Rookie of the Year is actually a remake, so check yourself.
Rookie of the Year is a remake?
I'm pretty sure.
There was a Henry Rowan Gardner. There's a black and white
Bats and
film.
Info. I think it's a remake.
I'm with you. Little Big League was awesome.
Thank you.
Shut up, Fat Chris. Shut up, Fat
Thank
Chris.
you.
You are
Dude, I wanted to be a manager just
Chris,
like him when I was like 12. It was
you
awesome.
are the only two people.
Yeah. Chris, you just moved up a notch in my book. That puts you at notch 1. I'm kidding. But I do like that.
How many lines from Little Big League can you recite?
Yeah. Who cares?
Oh, what do you mean? What do you mean? Who cares?
This is the basic.
You can recite lines from the Sandlot. You can.
This is the basics.
No, it's not the basics move.
Yeah.
You can recite lines from the Sandlot. You can recite lines from Rookie of the Year. Give me a Little Big League line.
I certainly don't know any lines from Rookie of the Year. I'll tell you that.
Oh, give him the high cheese. Garden Hosa. Hot ice.
Rookie of the Year is the baseball movie for people who didn't play baseball after Little
Float it. Wow, man. Wow. Too far.
You couldn't be more right, man.
Are you shut up, Chris? You guys are literally touting a movie in which the kid doesn't play. He manages.
Yeah. There's better baseball in the movie as a result.
You just ruined your own argument.
What? He benches his stepdad.
Yeah, it's great.
You want to talk about stepdads? You talk about Henry Rowan Gardner's evil stepdad. Keeping him on that Pepsi set so long. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Just want you to know.
Henry had friends.
Yes.
Henry had friends, and his stepdad was keeping him away from his friends.
There's only one reason why Rookie of the Year might get a nod in my book over Little Big League. That man's name is Gary Busey.
Don Batard. Chris, what was the funniest thing from the sports weekend?
I got Tyron Smith. I'm sorry. They were talking back here, so they were making me a little nervous.
Don't make excuses.
Tyron Smith holding a football in his hands. It looked so small.
Stugotz. Wow, you limped in with that effort, Chris.
I got rattled right before I went on air, and I'm just going to turn my mic off
all
now.
right. This is the Don Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Go Junior every Sunday for weekend observations from 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. On Saturday, our next top-ranked boxing title fight is unification battle for the first time in over a decade between undefeated 140-pound champions. Terrence Crawford puts his WBO, WBC, and Ring Magazine world titles on the line against IBF and WA champ Julius Indongo. The bout begins at 10 p.m. Eastern, live on ESPN and the ESPN app. Clinton Yates filling in here. Domonique Foxworth is going to be on the program later. He just texted me. We got a new poster up in ESPN. I'm very excited about that. Go and read some tweets for y'all here. At Clinton Yates, at Le Batard Show. Bad News Bears, Angels in the Outfield were the bleep growing up. Angels in the Outfield, also a remake, in case you didn't know that. At Clinton Yates, Little Bug League is way, way better than Rookie of the Year. Fact, I've never seen that movie. At Clinton Yates, guy says Sandlot is basic and hates pizza. Fire him immediately. At least I'm consistent. At Clinton Yates is so off here. I don't believe he's being honest with us. No one agrees with him here. Look it up. I wrote about this when I was at the Washington Post. I actually wrote a full story about the top 5 kids' baseball movies. If you want to do that research, I got receipts. It's not my fault that you're a basic out there. The Sandlot is a fine movie. If you use plain cream cheese on your bagels, only use like 2 pieces of bread on your PB&Js, it's for basics. There's nothing wrong with that. I happen to be an individual of a slightly more refined palate when it comes to my favorite sport. In certain ways. In other ways, not so much. Bull Durham's a pretty good movie. Field of Dreams is a pretty good movie. Sandlot is a very good movie. Sandlot is a movie that if you don't even like baseball, you like Sandlot, which is a credit to it. When I was at the minor league game, St. Paul Saints a couple weeks ago, they were having a night at the park. You know what movie they were showing where you could sleep out on the lawn with your family and your dogs and all this?
Sandlot.
Bingo, bango. For the basics. This is not a diss. It is simply a description.
You were right about Rookie of the Year, by the way. It is a remake.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
It is a remake.
I believe I had that.
Yes, 1954, Roogie's Bump. The plot of the movie is a young boy who loves baseball develops a strange bump on his arm. The bump has such an effect on his pitching arm that he soon finds himself pitching for a Major League Baseball team.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome, America. I know you didn't know that. You don't have to act like you did, but I did. Because this is the kind of random stuff I keep in my head. / I figured that out when I was doing that story I just mentioned before. The best baseball movie I've seen in my life, as someone who cares a lot about baseball and baseball movies. I don't know if anybody in the shipping container has seen this film. It's The Battered Bastards of Baseball. You seen that movie, Mike?
I feel like you just made that title up.
You have no idea what I'm talking about? Honestly, does anybody in the room?
Anybody?
No?
No.
All right, let me tell you what The Battered Bastards of Baseball is about.
Lots of shaking heads no, which don't really...
Yeah, I know. It's a next level film about a deep cut of baseball times that most people who think they're baseball fans probably won't care about. But I'll explain it quickly. And again, this is the best baseball movie I've ever seen. And I come from someone who really cares about this. You all know who Kurt Russell is, right?
Of course. Snake Plissken.
What's your favorite Kurt Russell movie?
Ooh. What a great question.
Overboard.
Overboard? Out of here, Roy. Not Overboard. He did a Tarantino one. Now I'm going to argue that that's my favorite. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say that my favorite is a title that I forgot. Executive Decision.
Ooh.
With John Leguizamo and, spoiler alert, Steven Seagal for about 5 minutes.
Oh. That was the first super diss in the movie theater where I felt cold, violated. He got banged out in the first scene, right?
Yeah. It was an intense first scene, though.
Yeah, that's true.
They had that stealth bomber that connected with that little plunger thing to get into the hijacked aircraft.
Did you know that Kurt Russell once played professional baseball?
I did, and I only know that because we had him on the show once. He cursed, and that was part of the research packet.
Do you know who Kurt Russell's father is?
No, who is Kurt Russell's father?
Kurt Russell's father is a man named Bing Russell. Bing Russell was an actor who was in all the old shows. I want to say he's got the record for dudes who were shot on film and TV or whatever. Gunsmoke, yada, yada. Bing Russell is an old school Hollywood actor. Bing Russell started a baseball team in Portland, Oregon. This is back when independent ball was still a thing. Independent ball meaning not linked to the affiliate system of Major League Baseball. You guys understand where I'm going with this, right?
Hit me.
The team that he created was one of the teams that sort of put in play a lot of what you know as basic marketing tools now at baseball games. Because he was a Hollywood star and understood the value of the show. One of the first guys to use a woman as a GM. There was a team that was in Portland for a while. They weren't successful. I think they were a AA team or something. They weren't successful. They ended up leaving. He decided he was going to start a ball club. You know what he did? He held open tryouts. Straight up. People came from all over the country. And he fielded a team. You know, who knows what kind of madcap people you're going to get if you try to put together a baseball team like that. But again, this was back in the day. This is what he did. His marketing was great. The places you first see brooms and people running around and all this stuff. But the team was too good for the affiliates. So there were some teams that they would play against that were minor league affiliated teams. And as a result, they got basically run out of town and run out of the system because all the AA babies and all these bonus babies and all these guys couldn't deal with losing to this rando group of dudes who they had put together just for the love of the game. It's a true story. It's a great story, and it's a story you don't know. You want to go see a good baseball film? Go to the Battered Bastards of Baseball.
Here's something else that you probably didn't know. Kurt Russell voiced Elvis Presley in Forrest Gump.
Sweet.
Uncredited.
So how do you know?
IMDb. Parenthetically, it says, voice uncredited. He had a hell of a run. I'd probably diss him by picking Executive Decision, honestly. Big Trouble in Little China is a classic. Tango and Cash, Backdraft, Captain Ron.
If you go to the Hillsboro Hops Stadium outside of Portland, you can still get Portland Mavericks gear. That was the name of the team. It's the best baseball movie of all time. You're welcome, America.
Don Le Batard.
Texter writes in, Stugotz looks homeless today. If I saw him walking down Ocean Drive, I would give him $5.
Stugotz.
Thank you.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Update. And by update, I mean old news. The Battered Bastards of Baseball has a 100% Rotten Tomatoes rating. You're welcome. You will cry at the end, though. Warning. So I'm out last night, and some guy asked me what I think about Mayweather-McGregor. And I said, that fight is on the wherever I'm at the time it happens. If it is on, I will watch it status. It has fallen off the map for me of something I'm going to plan to be around a TV for. And it was never really on the scale of something I genuinely wanted to pay for. Especially after last week, Mayweather came out and started saying, oh, well, you know, I'm old now. There might be a chance that he could beat me. I hope you fall for the okie doke. Nobody's falling for that okie doke, by the way. Fight's going to be boring, and Mayweather's going to punish him. But there's news today in this regard. And let's be clear, I'm not some big fighting guy, but I do understand the value of the weight of gloves. And they've agreed, apparently, to move down from a 10-ounce glove to an 8-ounce glove. This might not seem like the biggest deal in the world to the sort of average fan, but Brett Okamoto explains why this matters.
I think the most simple way to put that is because Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor really wanted them to. There's no scientific evidence for them to point to and say this is safer. You know, what they were able to say is that Floyd Mayweather actually has fought the majority of his career with 8-ounce gloves. Obviously, Conor McGregor has fought in mixed martial arts with 4-ounce gloves, so they're more used to it. So I guess that they can argue that, you know, the fighters are just better with those smaller gloves because that's what they're used to. But this is a 154-pound fight. Due to their regulations, or per their regulations, it should have been 10 ounces, but the commission said, hey, both these guys really want to do it, and we're not seeing any scientific evidence that says we have to put them in 10-ounce gloves. So if these two guys are both willing to do it, then we're going to let them have their way.
So they both bent the rules just for the heck of it. Mike, let me tell you what I'm wishing for in this fight. I'm hoping it goes a couple rounds. You know, it box a little bit. Talk their trash. Not really sure who I want to see come out of whose corner with them from a musician star standpoint. Trying to think of who could be the most controversial person you bring out of the ring to intimidate the other guy. Justin Bieber's got to be off that list for Mayweather. But anyway, so I hope they go a couple rounds and, you know, lull people to believe this is actually going to happen. And then I hope when Mayweather really starts punishing him, McGregor just gets flustered and hits him with a vicious roundhouse straight to the dome. And a 45-man brawl ensues all over the ring. And people start getting tossed like this is the WWE. I am actively rooting for chaos in that fight. I don't think much of either dude. But I'm looking for a situation that is far beyond what the normal level of entertainment in my mind is for a Mayweather fight. Mike Ryan, what outcome are you hoping for?
I still don't know, Clinton. I have no idea what to root for. I have no idea what my rooting interest says about me, either. I'm sort of hoping both lose, but I'm also hoping for a good, exciting fight. This may be one of those instances that I have no idea what my rooting interest is until the fight starts.
Rory, you going to watch this fight?
Yeah, if it's free, if it's at a sports bar.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. We are working on an event. We should be able to make an announcement locally. Our local affiliate, 790 The Ticket, we're working with them, and hopefully we'll have a place that we can watch the Mayweather-McGregor fight, and all our fans can come out. We'll have news on that in the coming days. But is that? I don't think that's an uncommon feeling heading into this fight, the one that I'm undergoing presently, which is I have no idea who I want to win this fight, and I may just figure it out as the fight gets going. And at that point, typically if you head into a fight that way, your natural reaction is to go for the underdog. In this case is McGregor. But I don't really like him. This is confusing.
Chris Cody as the man with the most refined taste in the shipping container. Your thoughts on this fight?
I've always liked Conor.
Oh my God, that is a
flame out. Oh, man, I went to you. I tried to tee you up, Cody.
And you notice a whole delay in his response. In his defense, he is editing some sound.
Fair
because
enough.
Next week we are starting the Sueys, and he wasn't really paying attention, so I had to fill him in on the discussion. And he went to the mic without clearing his throat, apparently, and that's what happened.
I'm sorry, but I genuinely did want to know what you think about this.
It's all right.
Cody, let's try this again.
He is infamous for these horrible, horrible on-air contributions.
I'm familiar.
In short bursts.
You had to rejoin.
One more time, Chris.
Conor McGregor is the guy that really got me into UFC, so I'm rooting for him.
Okay. That's a good reason. That's the most clear-headed reason I've heard so far of why people are rooting for Conor McGregor. Mark your calendars, y'all. 10:40 a.m. Because some people who work on this network, Ryan Russillo, he asked me a question once. He said, what's wrong with rooting for the white guy just because he's a white guy? Why can't I say that? Race talk, bait and time, excellent. That's all I'm going to say about that. I don't have any rooting interest except for chaos. It would make me laugh uproariously if everyone made a mockery of the proceedings and nothing came out of it at all. And both of them ended up getting paid half of what they were supposed to because they violated the terms of the purse. If that's insulting to the world of boxing, sorry, guys. I respect the art. I respect the sport. Same goes for mixed martial arts. But I'm certainly not upholding the credibility of this one particular bout as anything that's going to matter in my life. Roundhouse in the fourth. You go down.
Roundhouse?
It's Marcellus Wallace. Talking to Butch. That's pride messing with you. Royal Rumble. Where's this fight? Vegas?
Las Vegas, Nevada.
Would you go if given a free junket?
Possibly, yeah. I know free is a key phrase there. I don't know if you've been reading the articles about what's going on with ticket sales in this with this event.
I'm guessing they're pretty poor.
Really poor, unexpectedly poor.
Yeah, that's why Mayweather's out here talking about he might lose. You're lying, fam. Roundhouse in the fourth. Your butt goes down.
Don Le Batard. Let this marinate for a second. Stugotz demands that someone be fired for a mistake made at work.
Yeah. Let it sit, people.
Stugotz did not at any point check himself with the idea, man, I've made a lot of mistakes at work.
Yeah, that just dawned on me.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Some of y'all hitting me up on Twitter. At Clinton Yates, at Le Batard Show. This fight might literally be the last thing in the world America needs. A black woman beater versus a white racist. At Clinton Yates, OJ comes out with McGregor would be great. Not so much. At Clinton Yates, not cool. watched Russillo's show when Ryan tried to have an honest dialogue with you and you just pinned him as tone deaf. You, my friend, are not very smart because that's not what happened. That convo I had with him was the best discussion I've probably had on ESPN Radio's network since I've been here. I did think that question was a little bit oblivious, and I explained to him why. And we had a very measured and tremendous conversation. So don't be coming out here atting me and atting him like you're going to start up some beef between two professionals who respect each other. That's weak sauce. Clinton Yates is my name, filling in here for the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz. I got people jumping in my Facebook mentions as well. So the home run record set during the steroid era should count because pitchers were juicing too, but anyone who played within the rules before black players came around shouldn't have their records count. We are trying to fight racism in this country, but statements like that don't help. Here we go. Anytime folks are held accountable for things that gave them an advantage structurally or fundamentally, and it's called out, suddenly it's divisive. Jackie was a great player and started the emerging of black baseball players, but that statement was simply foolish. Are you talking about your own or mine? Because you do realize they were playing baseball, and by they I mean black folks in this country long before Jackie Robinson showed up, right? I mean, does America not understand that the Brooklyn Dodgers and Branch Rickey didn't create Jackie Robinson in a test tube and suddenly say, oh, look, we got a black guy? People know this, right? People understand the Negro Leagues were a thing and that Jackie basically got picked because of, for a lot of reasons, obviously he was good, but he was the one who was going to be able to handle it and so on and so forth. We get that? Come on, y'all. Let's get a little smarter. The reason I think that is because, listen, from a simple competitive advantage standpoint, the reason why it's different than saying the pitchers took them two is because when the league was not integrated, you did not have the best competition. Back when Babe Ruth played, dudes in the bigs were, I mean, come on. Babe Ruth was a gargantuan talent. But the bigs then were a totally different thing. It's not about fairness as much as it is about competitive level, as much as the fairness factor annoys me. It's not some crazy stance. A lot of people feel that way. If you weren't playing against the competition that was the best, well, you know, who knows what your records might have actually been. That's the point there. Giancarlo Stanton sitting on the back porch, reading newspapers with a pocket watch. When are y'all going to get Giancarlo on to do a Back in My Day, Mike?
When are you going to do your Bad in My Day segment that we discussed?
Friday.
Inform the people.
Friday, I will be doing a new bit called Bad in My Day. You've heard Amin Al-Hassan's Black in My Day. You obviously know Cody's Back in My Day. I will be introducing Bad in My Day. Things that people thought were awesome then and still think they're awesome now as a nostalgia feel, but they've been bad the whole time. I'm not going to give it away. That's just a little bit of a teaser for y'all. Because some stuff wasn't all that dope to begin with. And we look back on it with rose-colored lenses. Sort of like the bigs before it was integrated. See how that works, kiddos? Bring it all together. And I respect Ryan Russillo because that was a great conversation. I thank him again for letting me have it. I'm Clinton Yates, the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
Hi, everyone. Stugotz here. Support for the Dan Le Batard Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you are confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you the same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you are getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Stugotz. That's rocketmortgage.com/Stugotz, STUGOTZ. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states. NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030.
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. I mean, we had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Want an easy way to see if you could save money on car insurance? Geico gives you 3. Call 1-800-947-AUTO. Go online to geico.com or stop by the Geico office nearest you. 3 ways you could save 15% or more.
Don Le Batard.
All right, hold on a second. We've got 1 minute left in the segment. Can we have everyone, including Roy? Roy, do you do a fake Stugotz?
Yeah, buddy, I actually do.
All right, let's all of us at the same time. It's going to be being John Malkovich for 1 minute. Go.
Stugotz.
Hey, buddy.
Listen, man. I love to join the show tomorrow. You know I'll do anything for you. I'll do anything for you guys.
I am never playing here.
Make sure
this is all an elaborate ruse. Okay? I am way overpaid.
It's an opportunity.
Fine,
Get on Sports Center.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Joining me right now on said Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, the homie, the co-host, the god, Domonique Foxworth. What's up, Fox?
What's happening, fam? How you doing?
I'm chilling, man. I'm super psyched about this poster we got up on the wall at ESPN Radio.
Oh yeah, I know. I saw that text too. That's pretty cool. I'm excited about it too, I guess, but I don't know. I remember that shoot not going as well as I wanted it to go, but it's hard to capture all this sexy in one photograph, though.
There's quite the backstory to that. Let me ask you something, because we were talking about this earlier. I mentioned the point about Giancarlo Stanton talking about 61 is the real number. And I was like, first of all, who thought he was going to be the guy that was going to be so old school about it? But I also said, as a baseball fan, I'm the kind of person that basically throws out all records before the game was integrated, not just from sort of a social justice, if you will, standpoint, but from a competitive balance standpoint. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair thing to do, but it's always hard when you're talking about, I mean, records are fun, and I know records are a big part of baseball and all these chases and stuff, but it's really hard because people aren't playing at the same times in any sport, so they aren't playing the same style, they aren't playing at the same level of competition. So anytime you start doing these comparisons, it's different because I suspect that pitching now is a lot better and equipment is a lot better now. So there's so many different variables to come in there. It's fun to do the chase and do the countdown and go after records. And if you're going to do it, you have to go after the real record. So not the record that you want to pretend is real, the real record. So if you want to beat the real record, beat the real record. Stop trying to kind of bifurcate different numbers or here or there. I don't appreciate any of that nonsense.
Bifurcation alert.
It's a Mina Kimes special. When she's not here, I have to fill in my nerd quota when Mina's not here to be the nerd.
Mina Kimes, Domonique Foxworth, Clinton Yates. We host the Morning Roast on Sundays from 9 a.m. to noon, in case you didn't know that. So let's get to the NFL. The Zeke Elliott situation took a very, what I would call, bizarre turn when the NFLPA and NFL started trading statements. Obviously, the NFLPA is helping Zeke appeal his 6-game suspension. Number one, I'm going to ask you from just your basic opinion about this situation. And number two, I'm going to ask you about how you think they handled it for an organization you once headed up.
Yeah, so I obviously, when I saw those reports, I called people at the union, and they have vehemently denied ever putting out any information about the victim or trying to besmirch her name in any way. So, I mean, take that for what it's worth. Obviously, that is reprehensible if anybody's doing that sort of thing, going to the media to try to attack her credibility. That's not something that can be defended, but the PA vehemently opposes ever having done anything like that. And as for the case of Zeke, I know you and I disagree on this some. Is like, I don't know, Zeke is not somebody who, based on the report, and I've applauded the NFL for doing what seems to be the first time they've done kind of an extensive and exhaustive and transparent investigation in this way. So I applaud them for that. But I can't get myself to a point where I am comfortable with the current state where the commissioner is kind of at his whim making levying punishments and then receiving the appeal also. So I know with Ezekiel Elliott, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just think that, I mean, that sort of lends so much more credence to the notion that you've got to worry more about sort of what he thinks than what she thinks, you know, and that's where it bothers me. It's like, look, I get it. There's structure, there's process, but look, if she's not lying, you know, that should matter more.
Yeah, I'm not here saying that she's lying or she's not lying, that anybody is guilty or innocent. Just as much as I don't like Roger Goodell having that power alone, I'm not going to pretend that I have that power alone. And I agree that this particular case is not a great one for me to take this position, because you don't want to appear to be on the side of someone committing domestic violence. But I told you this story on the Morning Roast. There's something about, I made this mistake once in the past as a leader of the union when Pac-Man Jones was getting in a bunch of trouble early in his career. We were the first kind of union that okayed the idea of extrajudicial kind of punishment. And prior to that, if you go back, I think Ray Lewis had a major issue and he didn't get any suspension because he was never convicted of anything. And so we kind of changed that. And that was because that particular incident was one where we were like, no, this is just too far out of hand. Something needs to be done. But the problem is, once that happens, when it is not too far out of hand, the commissioner and the league owners still have that power. So, it's about process versus results. And even though the result on this case may be one that we all like and it may be good at this particular time, the process matters, because the results will not always be good if you allow for a kind of fraud of a process to continue to exist.
You hear that, kiddos? Blame Domonique Foxworth. It's all his fault.
It is.
No.
Absolutely.
So one of the things, Fox, that I saw yesterday that really turned me off, beyond this notion of them sort of leaking, text and so forth, were these tweets. They tweeted out, because the NFL tweeted out a statement saying that, they didn't appreciate what they felt was shaming and blaming. And then the NFLPA's Twitter handle hits them back with a quote retweet that says, "Show us the receipts, emoji face, sort of confused." Doug, that can't happen. They deleted it later. That was a really, really bad look.
Yeah, I didn't even know about that. That is a bad look.
Yeah.
But, I think starting with the NFL, I don't understand their purpose in sending out that statement. So what do you hope to accomplish by sending that statement? If, let's say that someone is leaking some information that is derogatory about the victim, drawing attention to it is not the move. I'm not sure what they're doing with that particular tweet right there. I don't know what they're trying to accomplish there. But anyway, that aside, responding to it with emojis and stuff and taking it lightly, I think is probably certainly not the move. And I guess the PA noticed that when they pulled it down. But I could imagine being very, obviously, I'm not even going to pretend, as so many of us journalists do, pretend that we are completely unbiased. I am biased. I was president of that organization for some time, so I know the people there, and hearing that they would do something like that just doesn't sound like them, and it kind of bothers me to hear it said or done. And I still don't, I'm not sure what the NFL hopes to accomplish. It seems like a really political move ahead of a potential appeal. It seems like a political move on their part to kind of make sure that the public is on their side going forward.
Yeah, but I don't actually mind that in this particular case, because I think it's educating a lot of fans about something that they might not have been aware of. Sure, it might have been political in this situation. And I don't want to get too far into this. I think we've sort of exhausted it. But I think that a lot of people don't realize why that's wrong. You know what I'm saying? And that was sort of like, hey, we can't have this. What are you doing? And I think I think it was effective on some levels, in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe it was. And again, like I mentioned, I am biased, but I don't know. Maybe if that was what they were trying to do, I don't know that it said in the statement, this is something that happens to lots of victims and this is the wrong thing to do. But I agree. And it gives us, if nothing else, it gives us a chance to talk about it and repeat that this is something that's not okay. And when you get into the appeal or when you're in the court of law, the credibility of the alleged victim is something that comes into the case many times. And it's ugly and it's uncomfortable, but it's certainly not something that needs to be spread amongst media members prior to any sort of investigation or appeal.
We're talking to Domonique Foxworth on the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz. I'm Clinton Yates, filling in here on a Thursday. How's your summer been, Fox?
It's been good. It's been busy but fun. I can't complain, I guess. I guess I could complain, like the events of this past weekend while I was not in Charlottesville. That's been not fun. But dealing with all that stuff and has been interesting. It's been uncomfortable, but it's one of those things where you kind of speak to people, at least this has been my experience. A lot of people in my life, you talk about how there are injustices in the world, and many of them will discredit you and say, it's not that bad or not, whatever. It's kind of frustrating. You would think it'd be vindicating when something like Charlottesville happens and you can say, see, there it is. It's frustrating for the people to come back to me and say, oh, so you weren't lying. That is a bit disappointing. It's a bit disappointing because, like, why didn't you believe me the first time? But I don't know. I think the country's in an interesting place, and I, for one, as I know you are, am very happy that it has found its way into sports because it allows us to talk about it.
Yeah, and one of the things I was talking about yesterday is the fact that Bronco Mendenhall is dealing with this with that Virginia team who ended up having a meet and greet canceled. And as a result, they're sort of in a different position going into their league, into their season, not because of the meet and greet, just sort of in general, because they got that spotlight. Can you imagine what it'd be like being on that squad as a college player? I mean, they're not very good, but all of a sudden you got a completely different lens on your program and on your school than you ever expected to do for a team that won, 2 games last year.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big thing to carry, a big thing for them to have to deal with all season. And, I mean, I guess have to deal with has a negative connotation. It's a big thing to be intertwined in their season because it's not something that I assume, like, college is a time when you go and you learn about a lot of these things and you explore the way that you and kind of reshape the way you view the world. And I assume that there are many guys on that team who have taken a great interest in issues of social justice and racial inequality. So this may be an opportunity for them to get involved. So while I'm excited about what's going to happen this year, it's going to change a lot of these players. And I'm excited to see what they'll do going forward, whether it's as professional athletes or not, what they'll do going forward and how this may have impacted them and reshaped the way they view the world.
Last question. What do you think about The Sandlot, the movie?
Oh, I enjoyed Sandlot. I know you normally, you and I disagree on almost everything. You're about to hate on The Sandlot, aren't you? Yep,
it's for the basics. That's all I'm saying. The Sandlot is the Gap of baseball movies. That's all.
What is on the other end of that gap? What should I be saying in baseball hipster Twitter? What's the movie that I should be saying I like?
You can download the podcast and check it out later. The Battered Bastards of Baseball is the movie that it's called. It's a movie about Kurt Russell's dad, Bing Russell, who's an actor who started. You haven't seen it. You haven't seen it. You don't know.
Boo.
You haven't seen it. You don't know.
Give me Sandlot. I have not seen it. Give me Sandlot. That big dog, the great, the freckle kid, awesome, love it. Sandlot,
yeah, the way to go. So memorable. You remember his name. Thank you, Domonique.
All right, guys.
Oh, Foxy, I miss him. We do the weekend show together with me and Kimes. Tune in if you like. The Morning Roast, Sundays, 9 a.m. to noon Eastern. It's a fun one.
Hey, buddy, the wait is over. It's the 2017 Suey Awards, starting August 21st. The Suey Awards.
Don Le Batard.
How is ESPN allowed this?
Stugotz.
They're talking sports, going at it as hard as they can.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Some of you guys are terrible on Twitter, I just must admit. Just a quick FYI. I've done a lot of day parts on this show, on his network. Mike Ryan, I don't know if you agree with me on this, but I think the average Twitter follower per capita for listeners of this show is lower than all the other day parts. Does that make sense?
No. Explain.
For each person who listens to this show that's on Twitter, the number of followers they have is lower than all the other shows.
Wow, you're shading. You're not really helping your.
It's not shade. I just. That's just me.
You're shading the Le Batard listeners, which, as you know, as you've seen in your mentions, they are a passionate group.
They're passionate but harmless, and that's what I'm just saying. The numbers are low, but they are passionate. Vocal minority. I like that. I'm just saying. That's what I've noticed from a numbers standpoint. It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. On the show sheet today, I saw a story that interested me. Casey Affleck apparently knows more about the Batman situation than his brother is willing to let on. On another radio station I won't mention for various reasons, he basically said that his brother will not be playing Batman anymore, I believe after the Justice League movie. Which leads us to an interesting discussion about the state of the Batman Union. I don't know where we believe it is, but I am somebody who considers myself an expatriate of Batman Nation. And I stayed on through some of the goofier years. But I'm totally out on Batman these days. And that's such a weird thing to say as a grown man. I'm not out on Batman as a concept. I can't think of the last time I got pumped for a Batman movie, and I wasn't a huge Bale guy, unfortunately. I fell asleep in 2 of those movies, which is unfortunate. Mike Ryan, where are you on Batman at this point of your life?
I'm really down on Batman. He's my favorite superhero, but I do not like the Batfleck.
So you're with me on this?
I think this is a good thing if Casey Affleck ain't fooling.
Who do we have on our radar as the preferred next Batman of the Dan Le Batard show? And by we, I mean the shipping container.
Well, they need to correct the mistake because Zack Snyder chose Ben Affleck because he wanted an older Batman for the story arc, but they're already running into the issues of having an older Batman. If they actually want to see this whole storyline out, the guy's going to be pushing 55.
Can't have that.
So I have different Batmans. I have a cheaper, more available Batman if you still want to do an older story arc.
A bargain bin Batman, if you will?
Bargain bin Batman that I think I sort of cast Daredevil based on Jaw, and I think that's sort of what Zack Snyder did with Batman. He he made his casting based on a jawline. And if that's the case, let's go to the bargain bin and get Carl Urban.
I don't even know who that is.
He played Judge Dredd in a movie, and he looks like Bruce Wayne. He just looks like a great Bruce Wayne.
Where are you on moving outside of the white guy with dark hair as Bruce Wayne?
Ooh, that's a tough one for me. I wasn't hot on the Val Kilmer blondish Batman.
Neither was I. I didn't mind that. I thought that was a nice wrinkle, if you will.
It's such a dark character, Batman, right? So it's hard to pull off brooding and sad and depressed when you got blonde hair, blue eyes, you know?
Yeah, that's true. I'm a Michael Keaton guy. I'm fiercely loyal to that movie being the best one.
The eyes actually worked for Keaton.
They did. I know that's the old man comment I'm going to make today, which is that my favorite Batman is the 1989 Batman. That was the first real summer blockbuster in America. In case you didn't know that. That Batman, as you know, Mike Ryan, soundtrack, bananas.
Yes. Banana soundtrack. All Prince. It was a concept album.
It went diamond.
That I did not know.
Oh, what?
I did not know that it went diamond.
Wow. Mike Ryan. I would have thought that would have been right on top of the list. Because, that's a big one. It's a big one.
I did a Google search on potential Ben Affleck replacements, and Screen Rant put together a list. And my nominee, my bargain bin Batman, leads off the list at number 15, Carl Urban.
Okay.
Let's see who else is on this list. Who would you like to see before we figure out?
I don't know, and that's why I asked. I'm sort of thinking about it because I can't really. There's nobody that comes to mind.
Woo, this is a terrible list. Oh my! No. Keanu Reeves is number 5.
Oh,
which I take that back. It's an amazing list.
I could see Keanu in a some sort of a flash forward type of role where we don't actually have to see him in action necessarily, but he's like an elder statesman Batman that whoever the younger Batman sees if he has some sort of premonitions down the line or something like that. But I couldn't see him actively playing the role and jumping in and out of cars and stuff.
How about this one? Luke Evans, only age 38. He's in the Fast and the Furious movies recently. I believe he played Gaston in the live-action Beauty and the Beast.
Wait, what's his name again?
Luke Evans.
Is that the guy from Downton Abbey?
He's British, so there's a good chance.
If it's the dude from Downton Abbey, that guy is a good pick.
Let me see if he was in Downton Abbey. He was in Dracula Untold.
Matthew was his name on Downton Abbey. If it's that guy, or whoever that guy is, that guy would be a good Bruce Wayne. I liked him. But yeah, I'm a Michael Keaton guy.
I don't think he was in Downton Abbey.
Who am I thinking of?
Matthew from Downton Abbey? I'm not necessarily... Do I give off that I watched Downton Abbey?
Of course not. That's why I brought it up.
Downton Abbey.
Matthew Crawley. fictional character.
Well, this guy's a terrible Batman.
You haven't seen him act. How would you know?
He's got blonde hair.
That's my point, though. He's the one who can bring it together. He's got the class, but the blonde hair, he actually broods well in Downton Abbey. This is what I'm saying. If you've seen the show, you're familiar with his work. He'd be not bad.
Not handsome enough. Not handsome enough. Carl Urban, Luke Evans.
Not handsome enough.
These men are handsome. This guy from Downton Abbey, just because he wears a bow tie in Downton Abbey doesn't mean he can play a Bruce Wayne.
I mean, that's a pretty strong prerequisite, though.
Yes, for the formal ball that Bruce Wayne goes to once a Batman film, he can probably kill that just based off of this white bow tie.
Running violins in Downton Abbey was the best part of that show. But come on, we cannot have any more Ben Affleck as Batman or Bruce Wayne.
Don Le Batard.
Up to 40% off best-selling bouquets and gifts perfect for Valentine's. I said Valentine's.
Stugotz.
Up to 40% off best-selling bouquets and gifts perfect for Valentine's. I said it again. I can't believe I did that. Well, I can. Am I kidding? Shocked that I went Valentine's. Bobby Valentine.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Clinton Yates, filling in here on a Thursday. Last night, sat down on my couch, turned on my television. The Nats and the O's, meaning both local teams that I can watch with regularity, both played day games. So there's nothing really on that I was particularly interested in watching. And I saw, hey, the Sticks are playing the Sparks. Washington Mystics versus the Los Angeles Sparks. And because I luckily live relatively close to a lot of infrastructure in D.C., I said, oh, what time is that bad boy? Why not slide on down to what I like to call the Caparena now, Capital One Arena, to watch a WNBA game. Sidebar, Mike, what do you think about my nickname Caparena for the Capital One Arena, formerly known as the Verizon Center?
It is a delicious Brazilian cocktail. I'm a fan.
Okay. He's
I don't
referring to
really think it makes much sense for the arena, but
Arena, Cap Arena, Capital One Arena. Caipirinha is the drink.
Yeah, caipirinhas, I believe.
Caipirinha, I believe. Can we get
tomato?
Perhaps. But anyway, that's the idea, is that it sort of sounds like that, but it is in reference to the Capital One Arena. Anyway, so I go to Caipirinha to watch the WNBA game. I make it out to WNBA games about probably once or twice a season. And the Sparks are playing the Mystics, as I mentioned earlier. It was a blowout. And I'll tell you what, I like WNBA games. WNBA blowouts are not fun. Candace Parker, because Elena Delle Donne wasn't playing, and Candace Parker, she plays the 5 on defense and the 1 on offense. It's like watching a high school game. In this case, when the best player is on the court, doesn't have their other best player, she was dominating. And I felt bad for the Sticks. They can't win without Delle Donne. And I'm asking you, Mike, how often in the shipping container do you guys take in WNBA games?
Never.
Never, never? Or like
never?
Never.
Like never. I haven't watched. I think I watched a couple Miami Soul games.
Oh, yeah.
But not in person. I think I watched them when they were on TV. I haven't watched WNBA ever.
Have you? So you've never even been to a game?
No. Not even. They had a team here for I want to say 2 seasons, and they were actually pretty good in the regular season. I believe they're now the Connecticut Sun.
The reason I say that is because WNBA games are fun. It is a vibe that is unlike anything I've ever been to in my life. You got like a large amount of like older couples that are there, people that aren't even really particularly interested in getting loud, large amount of children. And it's the kind of vibe where, you know, sometimes you go to a game and you're like, man, look at those dudes. Those dudes are blitzed. Or like, you've got wacko face painters who are just way in on something to the point where you're like, man, I'm glad I'm not that person. I could never be that involved. WNBA games, by simple virtue of having a beer, you're the most out-of-control person there. It's a very fun environment, and you feel safe at the games. It's such a strange and such an excellent experience that I feel that the WNBA undersells is the fun times you have at the game. We've seen a lot of like Kobe and Kevin Durant come out and sort of tout the basketball, which is obviously great. You know what I'm saying? I happened to catch a bad game last night because, one of the best players in the league was out. But WNBA games, man, solid bang for your buck on the family level. One problem, though. I kind of got swindled at the ticket market, Mike. How much do you think I paid to go to this game?
For a WNBA game?
2 seats.
2 seats for a WNBA game. I feel like they'd be happy to have you there. Their attendance numbers aren't fantastic in the WNBA. I feel like a lot of teams would make money off concessions. So I would say $20 a ticket.
No, too much.
Too much? Too high?
Much, yeah.
$15 a ticket. $15 a ticket.
Where's he buying it?
Where are you buying it? You're buying it at the box office?
Yep.
Wow.
Wow.
That's
a poor move by you, man.
Yeah.
Walk up.
Wow, big mistake.
Big mistake.
At halftime.
I saw All-Star games for the WNBA game on StubHub for like $16.
I paid $100.
Oh, my God.
Get out of town. Why would you do that?
I knew it.
Because this is why I did it. I have a simple reason. Because the last game I went to, I went at halftime as well.
Did they let you play in the game?
And they gave me the tickets for free.
They let you coach the second half.
And
I have air for sale.
I was sort of not paying attention, and I was like, all right, what's best available? And she goes, well, that's like a loaded question. And I was like, all right, well, I'll pay $100, thinking like I'm going to sit on the court. No.
I feel like $100 would get you a partial stake in the team.
I assumed it was going to get me way more than it did, and it got me there were good seats, but it was nowhere close to what I was expecting. I played myself. A little bit. And by a little bit, I mean a lot. So, understand that my judgment is not always the best, America. But, Theodore Leonsis, you're welcome. And they wore their pink uniforms, which is really cool. They had their cool socks on, too. If I could have bought some of those. If they'd given me a pair of socks for that $100, I would have been happy. Alas, I watched a blowout and wasted a little money. That's how smart I am. At Clinton Yates, is there a Bojangles in the Capareña? That's a good question. I wish there was. I would have eaten there. At Clinton Yates, please tell Clinton Yates that no one calls the Washington Wizards Zards or Zardos or the Mystics the Sticks. I do, Playboy. And so do my friends. So get some more friends that are like mine. I'm Clinton Yates, filling in on the Dan Le Batard Show, it's ESPN Radio.
Dan Le Batard.
I don't know if you actually respect Steve Aoki or not, but you came off like you didn't care for him at all.
Oh, I don't.
Stugotz.
I don't care for his music. I don't care for what he represents. I don't care about the genre. I don't care about the young people who like that genre. I think it's offensive and blasphemous that they have replaced the true musicians that do real art throughout the world. I think he's a sham stealing money, a professional thief.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
I'm Clinton Yates, filling in here on a Thursday. It's time to go back to the list of my top moments of last year's NFL season. We're at number 2.
Oh, God.
You might recall the list so far of the top 4. To review. Number 4, the tremendous 6-6 tie in overtime. Number 3, Mike Zimmer recreating a Muppet massacre all over the Vikings practice facility. And now, the big reveal, the number 2. It involves Stugotz's Jets. He's a Jets fan, right?
Yes.
As is Mike Greenberg. That's how I remember that. They're very similar in my mind. That's a joke. It involves the New York Jets. and one Muhammad Wilkerson. You might recall that Muhammad was benched for the first quarter, I believe, of a game against the Ravens. Excuse me, the Browns. I'm screwing this all up. Anyway, he was benched for the first 2 quarters of the game. And the reason why he was benched for the first 2 quarters of the game...
Is it even Muhammad Wilkerson?
...is because he missed a walkthrough in the previous game. And why did it matter that he missed that walkthrough? Well, because it was his birthday. And the team had ordered him a cake. And he blew off his own birthday party with the team. I don't know why I find this so funny. Or so impressive as well. Maybe it's because after hanging out with Domonique Foxworth, who you heard on the show previously, man, I can't even talk today, or any day for that matter, as Twitter would tell me. I have this notion that like the way that NFL dudes deal with each other is so like businesslike and serious, although collegial and fun. But the notion of an NFL team going out of their way to get a birthday cake for a guy and then having him blow off the actual ceremony, if you will, makes me laugh to no end. Mainly because I think birthday parties are like, you know, they're sort of the last... I don't want to say honest thing that we do, but like the last sort of pure thing that you do. Like you can't get mad at people on your birthday. I mean, you can, but like, you know, somebody's birthday, you say, hey, happy birthday. That's like a universal nice thing to do. You know, you're obligated to like everybody's likes on or everybody's stuff on Facebook if they, you know, give you a happy birthday. I stopped doing that on Facebook, by the way, like 2 years ago. But the notion of somebody blowing off a birthday party with their own teammates is so Jets and so hilarious that I love it. Have you ever blown off a birthday party, Mike?
Never.
What is your go-to birthday party move these days? Because as I get older, I tend to less like them. They tend to be more private, obviously.
Oh, I'm the opposite. I'm enjoying them. I throw a theme attached to every birthday party. One year it was a very patriotic theme. Last year was a karaoke party. This year I'd like to do a freestyle party, in which we go to this place called, it used to be called Hot Wheels in the late 80s and early 90s, and they played the greatest freestyle jams. And I'd like to go to Hot Wheels and have essentially what would have been my birthday party in 1991.
Wow. What are freestyle jams?
You don't know freestyle music? Stevie B? Yeah, Spring Love? Come Back to Me?
He could go.
I could probably get him.
Yeah.
I have no idea what you're even talking about, honestly.
You don't know? Diamond Girl?
Dial it up. Let me hear it.
Nice and Wild? Hang on. Wow. You gotta know some freestyle jams.
Yeah. Perhaps.
The music sounds the same.
I'm just not familiar.
Debbie Deb? Debbie Deb. Every the song Going Into the Club that ends every week. That is a freestyle jam.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, we're moving closer.
In fact, we're only playing freestyle jams for the rest of the show.
Who out of the shipping container and the crew and the family there is most likely to skip a birthday party that you guys threw for them? Not named Dan.
I would say Billy. Guillermo, probably.
That's a safe bet.
Yeah.
Do you not like birthday parties?
You know, I'm over my birthday. It's not a big thing. Like I have to be tricked into going to like my own birthday. Like this past year, my girlfriend and my sister were like, "Yeah, we're gonna go out this thing," and I'm like, I didn't even put 2 and 2 together because my birthday was a couple days earlier. I'm like, I guess if we have to go out, you know, we'll go. And then like everyone was there, and it was like not a surprise, but like on the way over there, I got suspicious. But yeah, I'm not about birthdays. It's strange though, because I don't like birthdays, but then if I do nothing, I'm like all depressed. I'm like, I don't have any friends.
I stopped wishing people a happy birthday on Facebook because after a certain age, it becomes too cumbersome. It's like a daily task.
Would you like to hear a freestyle jam?
I would like to hear a freestyle jam. Okay. This is what I would call pre-game Scarface era music.
No, this is post Scarface.
I get that, but I'm saying in my mind, this is what I imagine the people who are at the club in Scarface, not the music they're listening to in the club, but the music, those people who go to those clubs who are not the mobsters and the drug dealers, the regular club patrons, this is what they listen to before they go to those places. That's what this reads is in my mind. Does that make sense? This is a good song.
This is Cynthia.
Cynthia?
Thief of Heart.
Okay. This is a good song. So do you sing these karaoke or does Hot Wheels just play these jams?
No, Hot Wheels plays these jams and you skate around to these jams. And I actually went to what used to be Hot Wheels. It's something else now. And I went to it, I want to say 3 years ago for a little kid's birthday. Yeah. They capped the drinks, had 2 tickets per person. Oh, man. And they still play the same exact music that they did in the early 90s, late 80s. In fact, you're familiar with DJ Irie, right, Clinton?
Nope.
You don't know who DJ Irie is? He's only Jamie Foxx's touring DJ and the in-arena voice of the Miami Heat.
Okay.
He got his start at Hot Wheels.
Really?
I see.
You could have done my birthday.
I see. Okay. Why would you limit the drinks to 2 at a kid's birthday?
Want an easy way to see if you could save money on car insurance? Geico gives you 3. Call 1-800-947-AUTO. Go online to geico.com or stop by the Geico office nearest you. 3 ways you could save 15% or more.
Don Le Batard.
Nobody in my life has as many unlikable traits who I still like as Stugotz.
Stugotz.
Would you have taken the pay cut?
No. Pay cuts. Please. The hell are you talking to?
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Joining us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line right now, somebody I've been chasing for a while, but you've seen him on TV, on The Bachelorette, and on Bachelor in Paradise for a bit, DeMario Jackson. What's up, fam?
Hey, man, how's it going?
It goes well. So let's start at the beginning. First of all, for those who don't know who you are, you were a contestant on The Bachelorette, on Rachel Lindsay's season. Things ended kind of unceremoniously, if you will. There was a confrontation. I'm using that word loosely. How did that go, and what was your life like after people saw that unfold on The Bachelorette?
Man, you know what? It was nuts. I just played basketball in front of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Lou Alcindor. And it was insane because I went out there, I balled hard, had a great time. My team didn't win, but I was like the captain of everything. I got some people involved. I thought I was receiving the rose. I was so excited. She comes out. She comes to get me. I'm walking out. All of a sudden, I see the side profile of a chick. I'm like, wait, who is this? He turns around. I'm like, oh. It was one of those moments where you're sitting there and you're thinking, like, how the hell are you here right now on TV with me? Mm-hmm. And my biggest fear in this whole situation was disrespecting a girl on national TV or saying something out of the ordinary. So I'm sitting there trying to, like in A Beautiful Mind, the Russell Crowe moment when all those numbers and you're just trying to sit there and You're like, how am I going to get out of this situation? And what sucks, and in TV there's a lot of edits. So there was a lot of pauses, there was a lot of, funny faces, this and that. And, Rachel ended up eliminating me. But my only thing that I was upset about was the producers. It was almost as if, they tried to sabotage it with this random girl. They always have random girls or boys call into the show for this or that, and they never bring them on. But for some reason, they brought them on for me. So I'm like, you know what? I'll be a solid sport with it. It's pretty cool. I wasn't that interested in Rachel anyway myself, so I knew I was going to have to set up for Paradise. Then Paradise came, and
all right, hold on. Let's slow down here. Let's slow down. So a couple things happened in that basketball scene as well. Number one, you dunked on Rachel, which was not quite the smartest move. And number two, did you know at the time that she had dated Kevin Durant?
You know, to be honest, I play ball. I mean, ball is life. My grandmother, who just turned 80 on Monday, happy birthday, Gurney, she can be on that court, and she's getting dunked on. It's no holds barred out there. I mean, that's the way we do it. If you're under the goal, you're going to get banged on. And at the time, I did not know she dated Kevin Durant. But just from what I've heard from my people who know KD, I heard that was more of a situation like me and the Bumble girl and not an actual date. If you get what I'm throwing?
Yeah, I get what you're throwing, Playboy.
So, but that's just what I've heard from KD's people. But, I mean, I guess nowadays, people have different things on how they date. Like, by these girls' logic nowadays, I guess I'm dating the hot dog lady who stands out in front of One Oak at the end of the club on Friday nights, because her and I have been seeing each other every single Friday between the hours of 2:15 and 3:15. So I guess that me and the hot dog lady are dating as well. By all these girls dating, logic nowadays.
He's DeMario Jackson. You've seen him on The Bachelorette and on Bachelor in Paradise. All right, now switching gears here a little bit. This is obviously a more serious situation. Y'all get to Paradise.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I know what I've seen on screen with you and Corinne Olympios, and I know what we read about when production was shut down. Now, let me ask you this, because I want to be careful here, and I think this is a very serious matter in terms of discussing the concept of consent and alcohol consumption and where everybody was on this line. Number one, I'm going to ask you this. What was your impression of what that show is going into it as a contestant from a standpoint of booze consumption and just what you're supposed to do?
To be 100% honest, I thought that we were supposed to go in there, have some drinks, have fun, hook up, mate, relate, petting, however you want to describe it. For me, I went in there thinking like, wow, this is pretty cool. I got kicked off of this show for having a quote-unquote girlfriend, side chick, whatever you want to call it. But on the Paradise, it's okay to have multiple girls. It's okay for you to be hooking up with, X-girl during the day, and at night you get with Y. So that was right up my alley. To be honest, when I spoke to producers about it prior to going into the show, they're like, hey, this is your jam. Like, this is where you're going to be, like, you're going to thrive in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's super fun. Everything is like just, it's so much different from The Bachelorette. It's less like the, PC, and it's more of just fun. You get to go in here, your bros are going to be here. You're going to have some women here. You're going to have some little competition, this and that, but it's going to be extremely fun. So that's why I signed up for it. I'm like, yeah, like, man, sign me up for this. How can I get on?
Okay, so after that point, you get there and whatever, and I don't know what the legal situation is, so I don't want to get you in trouble here, but I know what we saw.
Yeah.
In your words, what happened?
You know what? I have been asking myself that. I talk to my pop about it every day, my mom as well. To be 100% honest, I still don't know what happened. Just put it this way. I went to Paradise for two women. I went to Paradise for Alexis and Corinne, right? Those are the two women who I found extremely attractive on this past season. And to get on Paradise and, Alexis and I, we started like having some fun, taking shots. Same thing with Corinne and I. So to get to Paradise and have the two women who you're interested in showing interest in you, it was like, your first year, playing in the league, you get Rookie of the Year and MVP and Finals MVP. You're having some fun. You're like, man, I'm out here. I'm having fun, drinking, mingling. All your bros are there. And, one thing led to another with Corinne and I. And, we ended up having some fun. And I thought nothing of it. You even saw in the scene, Alex is doing a play-by-play. There's production around. There's cameras, broad daylight, the whistle's out. Like, right.
Did we lose him?
Awesome.
Right when it was getting good.
Yeah, hang on. I'll
and I had to ask him the important question. No, I know. You're doing your job. We're talking with DeMario Jackson. That's who we were discussing things with. You might know him from the Bachelorette fame. He's the one who had his, as he put it, side chick blow up his spot during a scene of The Bachelorette with Rachel Lindsay. He also is the one who was involved in a very sort of serious situation that shut down production for a while on Bachelor in Paradise. Corinne Olympios, who some of you know from Nick Vile's season, she was down there. It was a very touchy circumstance. And, he might be joking around now, but I wanted to get to it. And I'm going to ask him sort of a serious question if we get him back. But he brought up an interesting notion of what's expected of contestants. Demario, you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
All right, well, hold on. Let me ask you this then, because we lost you a little bit, but this is the important question I wanted to get to. Do you understand why Corinne says she is a victim?
I do not. Not one bit.
That's a little problematic, Demario, because if you're saying, listen to me, I'm not trying to ambush you here, but I'm saying, like, if we're going to discuss consent and so on and so forth, look, if neither of you knows what happened, that's a tough situation, and you have to, at least I can understand why, in her eyes, she was put in a compromising position as she sees it.
Oh, no, I know what happened. I mean, we saw what happened when we watched the videotape the other night. Like, I mean, it was, like, clear as day. Like, we were in the pool. We started off at the bar. I mean, I know what happened with that. What I'm saying is I don't know what happened for that producer to make that producer. I mean, it was like a third-party producer who didn't, witness it firsthand, and she didn't see it over the monitor or anything. She heard about this later on the night. That's what I'm confused about. I'm like, wait a minute, how can the third-party person who wasn't present and who got on set hours later, how can she make a claim for? But there were 50-plus other producers that were all present, that all viewed it, that they didn't see it,
Yeah, all right. We're talking with Demario Jackson, who's on The Bachelorette and Bachelor in Paradise. I presume you're no longer on the show in that, but what's your life like these days being that dude from that show who was in that situation?
To be honest, it's all love. I mean, you would be amazed on how the narrative changed. Like, my pop always says, look at things from the balcony and not straight ahead. And I feel like in the very beginning, you see black man, you see white girl, you think the worst. You have the Bible Belt racists who come out, the people who were in Charlottesville going crazy, the people who didn't think that the ESPN slave auction was a thing. You have those people that come out, they don't like me just because I'm black. Then you have, black people who come out and they hate me because I was with a white girl. And she's getting slut-shamed and I'm getting shamed. And it was terrible for me. I mean, the first week was just, like John Mayer said, slow dancing in the burning room, that was me. But then the narrative quickly started to change things for what it was, use that good old thing called common sense. And slowly but surely, I started to go out and I started to get love from saying hey, can I get a picture? Team Demario, team this, team that. I mean, I was at Disneyland last week with some castmates and we were getting chased around and I was getting love from parents, kids, dads. And even now, I mean, when I go to the grocery store, I'm at the gym, a lot of people, they started to kind of realize. And then on Monday, when they saw everything, and then on Tuesday, when they saw my castmates, come to my defense, and they realized, oh, wow, you know what, this guy actually might not be this predatorial human being because now we saw the footage, we saw everybody was fine in the footage, and his castmates in production, and Chris Harrison, and everybody also came to my aid as well. So, it's changed. It's still an uphill battle, but I'm extremely happy and proud that ABC, went out online, and they were actually to put out the footage, and I'm excited to see what is up next for me.
He's Demario Jackson. You can find him on Twitter at @DemarioJackson_. You know him from The Bachelorette and Bachelor in Paradise. Thank you, man.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys, man. You take care. You have a great one.
No doubt. At the very least, I hope that for everybody involved, that situation that unfolded between Demario and Corinne was a learning experience. The basic premise of that program is one that is tricky on multiple levels when you think about alcohol and consent. I don't want to call it a gray area because I don't believe that. I'm of the personal opinion that if you're drunk, your consent is compromised. I don't know what happened. I wasn't there. I know what I saw on television, and I know that they shut down production. I don't know that Demario's tone was flip because I don't think it was. But from what it sounded to me, it sounded like he's a guy who genuinely didn't think he did anything wrong. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what happened, but I'll tell you this in the same breath. I understand exactly why Corinne thinks she's a victim. Because everybody there was in a spot that probably should not have been to begin with. I'm Clinton Yates, the Dan Le Batard Show.
Dan Le Batard.
What is the most pathetic you've felt moved to tears by something inanimate in the movies, like a robot or E.T.?
Wilson.
Really, a volleyball?
Wilson.
That's
When
a pretty
he
good
loses
nominee.
Wilson.
I mean, but gosh, I didn't feel anything. I felt the whole time that's just a volleyball.
Stugotz.
It was his best friend. It was
I know, but I didn't feel that one. They didn't create the character of the volleyball well enough for me in Castaway for me to buy. Like, it was just a volleyball floating away with a bloody handprint on it.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
If you missed any of the show, you can listen to all 3 hours of the Dan Le Batard Show on demand in the ESPN app, plus the Miami-only hour that airs before the show. And now you can subscribe to the Best Of podcast. It's all available in the Listen tab of the ESPN app. I'm Clinton Yates, filling in here on a Thursday. Get the button ready for me, Mike. What are you talking about The Bachelor? Where are the sports updates and scores?
You don't get the show.
Thank you, sir. Headline: John Lynch says anthem protests divisive, respects players' reasons. I've sort of shied away from this, sort of not as much as possible, but just because we spent a lot of time on it earlier in the week. And in full disclosure, I did an interview for The Sporting Life, which you can listen to on the weekends on ESPN Radio, with Jeremy Schaap, about sort of how we cover news of protests and athletes having their own voices and so on and so forth. I'm looking at First Take right now on my screen, looking at a tweet that Des Bryant said about how he doesn't protest because he's got to feed his family. And look, to me, honestly, I don't know that it's news every single time one person in the sports world has something to say about something political or social. Like, at this point, we understand that everybody grows up with this. You've got all the platforms you want to communicate anything you desire. And yes, obviously certain players are more important than others. But that doesn't mean I got to talk about it every second. But this I will talk about. And it matters because John Lynch is a former player who's now in the front office. And when you talk about how people move up the line in the league and how representation works and the power structures, etc., that matters. John Lynch, if I'm not familiar, is a guy who got a GM job with no experience. Am I wrong on that? He was in the booth, right?
Came from the booth.
He played in the league, I'm guessing, a decade. You know? Comes from the booth, gets a GM job.
Great on-field career.
Great on-field career. I like John Lynch a lot.
And we have seen, especially in that sport, people come from the booth and walk into management positions there. Who can forget Matt Millen?
This is true. But you also see a lot of brothers toiling as position coaches for years before they ever get a shot at anything close to that.
Damn straight.
So just understand that in the context of what we're talking about. That's sort of why what he thinks is important in this regard. He says, here's what he has to say about what he thinks sideline protests do.
And it comes courtesy of the Bay Area News Group.
That's divisive, and I understand guys see things that they're not happy, and they have that right, and I think we'll always respect people's rights. That doesn't mean I believe that. I believe that this game should actually be celebrated for what it is. I think a tremendous unifier for our country and for what the way things should be. Bill Walsh used to speak about it. You take guys from all over the country, different socioeconomic backgrounds, racial backgrounds, and you have friends for life. Warren Sapp's here today working with our defensive line because he's a buddy of mine and always will be. And so those type of stories, I think, get lost in something like this. But they've got their reasons, and we'll always be respectful of those.
Also, courtesy of the Bay Area News Group, 49ers GM John Lynch talks about how he would handle protesting players.
Does what you just said mean that you would talk to those players about that, or do you just, allow them as men to do it as they want?
I think that we'll always communicate. We think over-communicate is a good thing. We haven't faced that situation, and, if we do, we'll communicate.
Okay. I mean, I guess the thing to take away from that for me is that, for Lynch to say Warren Sapp's my buddy and he's always going to be that, and that's the unifier we bring to it, Well, he's lucky that that's the case, because when you play things at a high level and you get to meet other people who play things at a high level, you can sort of throw out all that other stuff. But that he's my buddy system is exactly how you got to skip from the broadcast booth to the front office. The he's my buddy thing doesn't work for everyone. And that's why when people look at the NFL, they say, well, okay, if these guys played in the league for so long and these guys have all this experience coaching, why don't we see more of them across the ranks of not just coaching staffs but front offices as well? And again, don't confuse outrage with concern. I'm just discussing why it's particularly important, or rather more interesting than sort of the average NFL player saying something, that John Lynch is the one saying that he finds protests divisive. Well, sometimes protests are designed to be divisive for the purposes of making you notice what is actually going on. I'm not disappointed in Lynch. I think he's actually being very honest about this. But knowing where he comes from and knowing that perspective from where he is in the league is vital. He's a general manager, which means he's part of the people who decide who are on rosters. Meaning he is very much in a position to say, if I don't like what you're doing, you're off the team. And if he can't see the difference or chooses not to express what he sees as the difference between a protesting player and, well, he's my buddy, well, what does he do if one of his buddies protests? And I'm not saying that it's not something that he can't work out in his mind or something that's, those two things can't happen at the same time. It is very fascinating for me to hear from that particular guy about this particular situation because of how he got to where he is. John Lynch was a great player, and I think he did pretty well on draft day as a GM. But I think it says a lot that a guy who's that young, quite frankly, still looks at this from the perspective of division primarily and rights secondarily. But that's the league these days. I'm Clayton Yates. It's the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
Dan Le Batard.
Yanni Adebabubu.
Stugotz.
Giannis Adebabumbo.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Oh, yeah, Mike. That's a banger right there.
That is the legendary Stevie B. He is
legendary.
the king of freestyle. In fact, I was doing some research, and I thought maybe freestyle was exclusive to Miami, but it's not. It thrived in New York City and pockets of California, SoCal, and the Bay Area. But I don't believe it ever reached its apex quite like it did in Miami anywhere else in the nation. And I'll give you one prime example. We do our show out of the Clevelander in South Beach, a legendary venue for partying in the 80s. Stevie B has a plaque downstairs at the bar.
Oh, okay. That's a nice little, wrap that up nicely. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I believe it says something along the lines of he put the B in South Beach.
That's almost that he's that guy.
It's covered in dust. They're not taking care of it. Someone should go down there, brush it up sometime, maybe put some baby oil on it.
So my question is, because those of you who have listened to me on ESPN Radio before know that when I'm on the road, I like to go to minor league baseball games and I like to go to vinyl shops. If I go to a record store in Miami, am I going to be able to find freestyle records on wax? Sweat Records is my spot in Miami.
Sweat Records is great. For older vintage vinyls, there's this place out in Bird Road called Yesterday and Today. Which is pretty good. And up north in Fort Lauderdale, I believe Radioactive is another great place.
Okay.
But Sweat Records is a great spot. I'm a member there.
Really?
I'm a member.
You're
I'm
a
not
vinyl
only a
collector,
fan,
Mike?
I'm a member.
I did not know that. Well, switching gears to the college football world. Nick Saban's a guy that gets paid a lot of money. He's the head coach of Alabama. I wouldn't go so far as to call Nick outspoken, but Nick is certainly a guy that Doesn't talk a lot, but when he does, has plenty to say. He's one of those dudes that likes to let you think that he's always in control no matter what. Plays little mind games with the media, if you will. Not quite condescending, but certainly sort of, I don't know, domineering a little bit. You don't want to get into a row with Nick Saban. Well, today he had a little bit of a rant. And I don't like using that word because I think rant is an overused word. Whenever anybody says anything impassioned for longer than 30 seconds, they qualify as rants. But this, a little bit of a rant. Let's hear Nick Saban.
You know, you guys make all these predictions about everything, about guys that are going to be great players that have been here for 2 years and who's going to win all the games. And I don't even know why we play. Why do we even play? Why do we even have practice? Why do we compete? Why do we coach guys? How they need to improve? I mean, you guys got all the answers to how guys are going to be, what they're going to do. I mean, sometimes I wonder, why do we play? I mean, why do we even have practice? Because you guys got all these conclusions already drawn about who's what, how good they are, what they can do. I mean, so why would you ask me? I mean, that's a part that's puzzling to me. Why would you ask me? I mean, I read stuff all the time like, oh, that's nice to know. I mean, where'd that come from? And then you ask me? But Christian Miller has done a nice job. He's had a really good camp. He's doing a good job. I mean, had a lot of production points in the scrimmage, so we're really happy with his progress.
Okay, thank you.
And, thanks for asking.
That's the sound of the day. It's brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. Upgrade to shaving with a fresh blade whenever you want for a fraction of the price. Join Dollar Shave Club today. You know why they ask you, Nick? Because you make upwards of $10 million a year. Did you miss the memo on the reason why you get paid so much? It's because those people are in there talking about you 24/7 and analyzing your players at every chance they could get. This is obvious. You don't get to just make a bunch of cash and then do everything under the cover of dark and expect nobody to be inquiring about what it is you're actually doing as the coach of the football team. Like, don't insult people's intelligence here, man. This is part of the job. It's 2017. You are going to have prognosticators. You are going to have predictions that are forced to be made. That's why college football is big business these days. It directly goes to his salary because interest is so high. Of course, I understand his frustration as a person. It's a little annoying having people having to put all these expectations on you to the point that these young kids not getting remunerated properly for their efforts, by the by, suddenly got all this pressure on them because of what some random person in their eyes thinks about how they should or should not play this season. Of course, we understand academically the issue with that. Pun intended. But in reality, that's just what it is. It's Division I football. That's what you got to deal with. And the scrutiny that you've got on you as a result of being the head coach of Alabama, that's just what it is, Nick. That is the job. You got to presume every single player you deal with at all times is going to be scrutinized to the nth degree. Because you are making boku bucks, as my cousin used to say. I get the frustration.
Did you ever correct your cousin?
To say what, boku? Occasionally.
Buku bucks, right?
Boku is how you say that word.
No.
Oui. Wow.
Now, we played a clip earlier in the show of John Lynch, and he went to Stanford, and he said divisive instead of divisive. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that there's two ways to say that word.
There are two ways to say that, but beaucoup is how you say that word en français.
Is it a French word? Language of origin. Can you use it in a sentence?
You know, I once got third in the National Press Club spelling bee.
Thrown out?
Third. as in bronze.
I thought you said I got thrown out of a spelling bee. I would love to hear that story. I'm not so much interested in the other one.
Yeah, but no. Nick Saban, come on, man. You can deal with the pressure. It's not that serious. Actually, it is that serious, and that's why you're making so much money. Beaucoup dollars. Or fric. Anyway, I'm Clint Yates, the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
Dan Le Batard.
They have the basketball players sit down and try to spell Krzyzewski.
Stugotz.
I'd like to take a crack at it.
Coachk. This is the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
The Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz on ESPN Radio. Clinton Yates filling in here. Coming to a close. Want to thank Domonique Foxworth, my homie who writes at The Undefeated with me. Also, co-host The Morning Roast on ESPN Radio with Mina Kimes. Sunday mornings, 9 to noon, Eastern Standard Time. Talked about a lot of things. Mainly talked about the role of the NFLPA in the Ezekiel Elliott suspension situation. He was, of course, once the president of that association, so his insight was very much desired. We also talked to DeMario Jackson. You might know him from The Bachelorette and Bachelor in Paradise fame. He discussed his situation with leaving the former show and getting kicked off the ladder, for lack of a better term. That was somewhat interesting. Tough situation all around. Go read some tweets. At Clinton Yates sends me an Urban Dictionary link of beaucoup bucks of French origin. Hey, listeners, I speak actual French. Je parle français, mes amis. So understand that. I know it's of French origin. That's what I was trying to explain earlier. I want to get back to something we talked about, though, Mike, which is I did not know you were a vinyl guy.
Yeah, I love vinyl. It sort of goes with the whole snob aesthetic.
Well, yes and no. Because
I'm building every now and then.
So I want to ask you this, and I'm not being flip here. Like what? Because here's what my deal was. I was a high school guy who spun for fun and, not out here on some wild, invisible scratch pickles nonsense where I'm, cutting up the party. I just liked records. I thought it was a fun way to get into music. You got sort of different stuff. You throw on beats at parties, your friends spit, and that's really all it is. Ended up losing a bunch of stuff, pretty much everything in a house fire, and it went away from me as a result for a while, pardon. And in recent years, I have now since purchased just an old, rinky-dink Urban Outfitters turntable, but I still collect, and I've started rebuilding. Where are you in your phase of life as a collector in terms of what you have, where you started, and, where you choose to go to find your stuff?
Well, I have a Barnes & Noble next to my house, and if I don't feel like making the trek to Sweat Records, which is, about 35 minutes away from where I live, I'll go to Barnes & Noble because there's good discounts there, and they actually have a pretty good selection now. I feel like they're as much a vinyl record store as they are a bookstore, at least for me. But I sort of built out this sort of center table in my living room, and I made the center table not only just a table, but a vinyl record rack. And I've got 2 sides of the table, 4 sides available. I have 2 sides of the square table already filled up, working on that third.
Are you the kind of person that buys new things on vinyl, or are you strictly a vintage, or does it not matter? Do you not discriminate?
I do not discriminate. I do like going crate digging at the great vintage record store that we have yesterday and today. That's a fun Sunday afternoon sometimes before football gets going. One of my traditions is going over there when it opens, crate digging for about an hour and getting home in time for some football. So I do like having some vintage records. I do get pretty stoked when I find a rarity.
I do too. I buy weird stuff. I buy things that I know I'm not going to be able to find by YouTubing, like random speeches from back in the day. I was in New Orleans. I went to a place, might have talked about earlier in the week, Peaches Records. If you ever go to New Orleans, Mike, you have to go to Peaches.
Really? I'll put it on my list. I'll definitely put it on my list. I'm also a member to Third Man Records Vault because I'm a huge Jack White fan. And if you're a member of the club, not only do you get certain perks as far as ticket sales and Q&A sessions with Jack White, but you also get an exclusive vinyl that's only available to Vault members once every 3 months.
I used to do a bit where I would be in those clubs where they send you the stuff. And I don't know how I felt about it. It felt cool because these days you can be at a club where they send everything to your door and you're part of all these exclusives, like you just discussed. But I had to get out of that. There was something that felt, I don't want to say unclean about it, but it felt a little too easy.
Columbia House?
I mean, it's basically what it was. It's basically hipster Columbia House. That's exactly what it is. You sign up on the internet, and every month you get a record, like a piece of art. This one included a drink recipe that was somehow linked to the music. And I was like, this is lame.
That is so extra.
Right. And I was just kind of like, I can't be a part of this any longer. And I felt slimy every time.
Oh, why'd you say that on the radio, Clinton?
I felt so slimy every time I opened these things up because they'd be good music, but this whole setup was just like, it's like when you go to a club where you know the DJ or you know a bartender, but the setup in the place is not one you actually really like. So you got to wear something you don't normally wear or whatever it may be, go somewhere you don't normally go. It felt like that. I was like, I just kind of just want the record. So I had to get out of that club.
What's your favorite thing about the vinyl record?
My favorite thing about it is probably that the art. Like, I'm an album art guy, and so the physical presentation is a big part of things to me. I just bought an album. It's like an instrumentals album. I can't find it right now, but I'll get it tomorrow. It had a liner notes, Mike, that was like the size and thickness of like Slam magazine.
Yeah, I'm big into the liner notes. I guess it's sensory overload. I love the smell of it. I love the feel of it. I like holding the music that I cherish in my hands.
You sound like Giancarlo Stanton.
61 is a record.
I'd listen to records with Giancarlo Stanton. Speaking of records. I want to thank everybody who tuned in today. I'm Clinton Yates. I'm back tomorrow as well. So please keep the tweets coming. Please jump on my Facebook page. If you want to send me an email, you can do that too. I'll read them all. Should be fun. It's the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio. Thanks for listening, kiddos.
Hi, everyone. Stugotz here. Support for the Dan Le Batard Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you are confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you the same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you are getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Stugotz. That's rocketmortgage.com/Stugotz, STUGOTZ, equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030.
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Longtime listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. I mean, we had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, when you switch to Geico,